welcome to the Shade Tree Commission's meeting, March's meeting. First thing is roll call. So we have a list of everybody that's there. Ellen, you see everybody? You got Stephen, Ellen, Connor, Bob, Arnie, Sarah, and me. Mary is missing. I haven't heard from her. So I'll call the meeting to order in accordance to Sunshine Law provisions.
At 7:04.
Okay. And then roll call is just look at,
Carol.
oh, Carol's missing.
Yeah, Carol's missing.
Should I call her?
I have not heard from Carol. I haven't heard from Carol either.
Okay. So we'll just continue the meeting without Carol. Maybe she'll come in a little later. Okay, so we've done roll call. Secretary's report. Everybody got a copy, right?
Chris, if I may, before we actually jump in, while we're still on roll call, I know that we kind of all did it via email, but I'd like to give a formal welcome to Steve. And he's our new alternate member, and I'm really delighted that you're here. We needed new blood really badly.
We do need new blood.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll probably change that in the summer when Bob has me out planting trees, but we'll see.
No, we did not plant trees. Don't let them fool you.
Yeah.
What about cutting his grass? Is that, he told me all the new
Yeah,
members.
no.
Yeah, I hope he's paying you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, if it ever sounds weird what Bob wants you to do, feel free to ask Ellen and me. We'll set you straight. Don't ask Arnie. He's never going to give you a straight answer.
So, okay. Since that's done,
I resemble that statement.
Steve, we always go by the, when people join, we always smoke Groucho Marx as to, I wouldn't join any club that had me as a member, but welcome aboard.
Exactly.
How come he didn't bring donuts to this meeting?
they're
Oh, I got
virtual.
mine. Didn't you get yours? I got mine.
They're virtual donuts.
Exactly.
Next meeting.
I got a new computer, new screen, and a new camera, and I can't use the camera. Anyway, so roll call's done. We're on to the secretary's report for the February meeting. I should have changed that. It says January. It should have been February.
Oh, okay, got it. I see that. I'll fix that, Chris.
Okay. That's my fault. I should have seen that too.
Yeah.
Anyway. So everybody's gotten a copy of the minutes, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I move to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Since there's no discussion, I'd like to, it's been proposed, let's vote on it. Just raise your hand in favor.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the minutes have been approved.
Yeah. Chris, I don't know if you can see the screen, but Councilman has joined us.
Oh, yes, I see. James has joined us. Thank you for coming.
Look at that smiling face.
You're welcome. And you can, Jim is fine.
Um,
I know it says
thank
James on
you.
my name plaque.
Would you like us to go in around and introduce ourselves since you'll be working with us?
You know what? Quickly, but don't worry too much about me. But sure, I'd love to meet everyone.
Okay, I'm Chris Williams. I'm the chair, reluctantly.
Good to meet you. I think I've seen you around.
Yes.
I'm Sarah Malone. I'm the vice chair. I've
And
been on the
treasurer.
commission since I think 2013, and I'm also kind of treasurer too. So that's really a township function.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Ellen Thompson, secretary.
Hi.
Bob Hudak. I usually run the tree sale in the
I've
springtime.
seen your name on a lot of stuff over the years. So I've seen you.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
a positive thing.
Yes, that's what I always say.
It's probably those stupid refunds.
Arnie Schmidt, very nice to meet you, Mr. Vasanella.
Very nice. Arnie's the guy who doesn't volunteer very much. We got to get him to join a few more committees.
Yeah, he's a slacker for sure.
Not sure. who's
Ready?
next. Connor.
Public Works Liaison?
Yeah, you work for the town, right?
Yes, sir.
DPW.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, Connor joined the commission late last year, so he's sort of a newbie with us, and we're really delighted that he's on board. It's really great to have a good connection with the township again.
I saw his name pop up as township liaison, so hopefully between
Yeah.
him and I, you got everything covered now.
Oh,
Not
with
that he
that
couldn't do
title,
it on
he should
his-
get a raise.
Not that he couldn't do it on his own, but hopefully I'll be able to contribute also.
Okay. Good.
Last but not least,
Oh, yep. Steve Galooly, this is my first meeting. Hey, Jim, how are you? New member on the committee, serving an unexpired term.
I remember you
Hello?
being appointed just recently. Congratulations.
Alan, can you unmute and say hello?
I thought I did. Hi, I'm Ellen Thompson, secretary.
Hi, nice to meet you, Alan.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Go on. I don't want to hold you up.
Okay. So do we have a treasurer's report, Sarah?
Yeah, we do. And there are two accounts associated with the Shade Tree Commission. One is predominantly for fees and memberships, and it has a balance of $100. They put that in there every year. They usually have to up it because even just for the New Jersey Tree Federation, it's more than that. And that invoice is presently with DPW, so I'm sure that will change in the near future. Township will have to put a little bit in there and then pay that off. But in terms of the general fund for Shade Tree, for the tree planting fund, there has been no change since the beginning of the year. And at January 1, we had $209,190 in that. So there have been no new receipts and there have been no new expenses since January 1.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't need to approve that. So
No,
what's
there's no, review only.
no? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to open a meeting to the public? Do we have any public?
Yes, we do have a member, the Franklin Reporter is here. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask any questions, well,
I'll make a
actually
motion.
unmute you. Hold on.
Okay. Who's going to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'm fine,
So-
The
thank you.
meeting is open.
The meeting's open.
I'm good, thank you. I don't need anything.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Make a meeting motion to close.
Motion.
Sarah,
Second.
second. Okay. The meeting's now closed to the public. Okay. Okay. Commission requirements, volunteer hours.
oh, geez.
Don't forget get those commission requirements and volunteer hours to Sarah. Or keep
Yeah,
track
let
of
me
them.
report. Yeah, let me report on that. We are still
Okay.
waiting to file our annual report for 2020. And I have received a notification from Connor that he has finally gotten the detailed information that I need to file the report. And so we'll be in his hand right there. if he holds it up close enough, I'll copy it by hand. But no, we'll figure that out in the next day or two, and we'll get that filed probably by this weekend if Connor and I can figure that out today and tomorrow. So that will put us back in good standing with Tree City USA and with the state. And in addition to that, if you recall the last meeting, we had determined that we would not be taking the free tree seedlings for the tree recovery campaign because we had no way to distribute them given COVID. And when I talked with Alex about that, he did confirm that the state has waived the requirement for an Arbor Day event. So we do need to do an Arbor Day proclamation to gain points this year, but we do not need to do an Arbor Day event. So that was, given the situation, very good news and what we were hoping for when we discussed it the last time. So that's the update on reporting and CEUs, et cetera. Any questions from anybody about that?
Nope.
Cool.
I
What
would
is
imagine
the,
that
Sarah, when you say proclamation, what does that mean?
That is our annual proclamation. I sent Chris a copy to review, and I think he was going to edit it, but it's basically, I can just review that with you. We send it to the mayor, and it's the one that we read at all of our Arbor Day proclamations every year. But when we send it to the mayor, it gets read into the council minutes. And it starts off, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that special day be set aside for planting of trees, where the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees. Then it goes on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whereases, and then ends up with a now therefore. I, Philip Kramer, Mayor of Township of Franklin County, Somerset, proclaim Friday, the 30th of April, 2021 as Arbor Day in the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands for this and future generations. So that will be signed by the mayor, and then we'll get a formal copy of it, and then we'll be able to post it on our website. And that will be our requirement for the year. We don't have to have it read, while we're planting a tree in the public as we have in the past years.
So in the, we know there was a proclamation by the council. I always forget the year 2017 or 18 or whatever it is, about how, and I guess we put this towards them so that we wanted to raise our tree canopy from 38 or 39% to 42%. How about if we reiterate that in our proclamation? Can we do that just to keep saying that we want to do that and we want to stop cutting down trees whenever possible?
Yeah, that was, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that was actually a resolution, not a proclamation. And we can put anything in the proclamation we want related to trees. So, that, Chris, I think that's something that we could write in there. I could draft the language if you want me to.
Me and language, we don't get along. Please, Sarah, do that.
Okay. All right. And Arnie, I'll bounce it off you. It just needs to be a sentence. So, and then we'll,
Sure.
Well, the problem is though, we need to have this approved today because we don't, do we? Yeah, no, we meet again. We meet again before this is due, but it has to go to the council to have it right in. And I don't know when their meeting is between our April meeting and the end of April.
Well, if everybody agrees, we can just approve the proclamation as written with future changes to be made to include canopy cover.
Concerning the canopy cover.
Yes.
Is everyone
So-
okay with that if we wordsmith that sentence later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
What
looking
we-
for that proclamation right now because I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
When did you think you wanted that read? We have a meeting the second Tuesday in April and the fourth Tuesday in April, and then again the second and fourth Tuesday of May.
It would be the
th-
fourth Tuesday of April would be the best because the Arbor Day is always the last Friday in April.
No, that's
Yes,
fine. I mean, sometimes people prefer it before, after, it depends how the council calendar falls, but I know there's one other proclamation, because I'm involved in sponsoring it for the 27th, and we can do more than one. We do two or three, multiple times in the past. But if you could get it in and let the clerk know, so she puts it on for the 27th, because in case some other council person unknowingly had an idea for one and it wasn't a real timely issue, then we would have them, look to do it in May. We
Bump it
just
up.
try to space them apart. So the sooner you let
Okay.
Anne Marie McCarthy know, the better, even if it isn't exactly worded completely, just that she knows to put it on there.
Okay, and so again, the meetings are the 4th, and so we could potentially get it in by the 4th, just so that it's
Wait, no,
done.
not the 4th, I'm sorry. The second Tuesday and the 4th
Second Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Second
Yeah.
Tuesday. We can get it done by the second Tuesday, actually. I think that would be better. So it's out there.
Okay,
It's up to you. It's the 13th and the 27th, I believe.
yeah.
Okay.
How much lead time does Anne Marie need to put it on the agenda?
Well, technically, it's the Thursday before, but we try as a courtesy to give her proclamations at least 10 days ahead of time. There's not a law that governs it, but if you could just tell her when you want it, and then you can tweak out the language, right up to the end of that week before the meeting.
Do you want
Okay,
me?
I can send her an email tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow and tell her we're going to do this, that it's coming. And then Arnie, I can bounce the language off you and Chris, and then send it in right away and just get it done, so it's done. And then if the agenda's, full and she wants to bounce it to the 4th Tuesday, then that's fine. Otherwise, it'll be taken care of early in the month and maybe get picked up and printed somewhere, who knows? So,
Really, whatever your preference is. I don't think either one is going to be a problem at this time, either the 13th or the 27th.
Great.
And I do remember
you.
reading that proclamation many years ago, I believe. The wording actually sounded familiar. And yes, feel free to add something specific to Franklin. It's always good to make the general theme have a local township relevant.
Yeah, I found that it was 2016 and it was a proclamation from the council. I will see if I can send this to you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Do we mention in the proclamation that we are a tree sitting? And its status or anything, or how many years we've been?
No.
I would ask that we
can
consider,
address-
if we have that information, to include that in. To Jim's point, this is great. It gives us a little more credibility, I guess.
Okay, so add Tree City USA reference and the canopy cover reference. Yeah, the other things that we talk about in here are that they reduce erosion, the trees reduce erosion, they're a renewable resource, they increase property values, enhance economic vitality of the business areas, they are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and that the township has recognized the value of trees by creating a shade tree commission. So those are the general whereases as we have in there, so we can just add those two more and make it a little bit more focused. Great.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Tree plantings. We don't have anything really lined up as far as tree plantings. Connor, can you elaborate what we're not going to do it this in the spring. We're going to be doing it in the fall, so we can address that in the fall, towards the fall or the middle of summer.
Yeah, that's correct. So I talked with Carl back probably after a couple meetings ago, and I asked him about the spring planting, and he was like, "We can't do it just because of all the mowing and all the other stuff. We're understaffed. We have a bunch of guys out with injuries. So we're not gonna commit to the spring planting because of all the watering and everything that the trees are going to need. Whereas in the fall, we could plant, and then we can, where things slow down, we can dedicate a guy, a couple times a week to go out and water.
Okay. Thank you, Connor. So let's see.
I have a
Chris, I
question for
just
Connor.
sent it.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Connor, when trees go dormant, is that a possibility to plant trees then? If you had trees available to you, let's say November, December. Of course, we can't predict what winter's going to be, but if the ground is clear, and do you have the ability to plant then?
As far as I know, I'm sure we have time to plant in the winter. Just as long as the ground isn't hard.
Reason why I ask is that could be something we can think about down the road, that if there is a labor issue that or you're a bit stretched with watering, things of that sort, maybe you consider something at the end of the growing season. So we may have more people available, possibly through winter. I have some things in the back of my mind I could discuss down the road, but I'm just curious about that. I don't know what town it was around here. I went past them in November, December, and they were digging holes. And I was wondering, can we consider something like that?
I know.
I would say yes. And let's table this to a future meeting. How's that?
It's just a general question. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to go in depth.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Let's look at, okay. So Connor, we're going to be asking you questions on watering in Williams Park and Middlebush Park. And Inman Park, we planted them last year. We're gonna have to, if it gets bad, we're gonna have to water those trees. So just keep that in mind. Because they're recently planted. And
You said that we planted trees. No, we didn't plant any trees last year.
2019, I'm talking.
Okay.
They may not be fully rooted and get enough water. I mean, I know we've lost a couple trees on JFK, and we're gonna lose more because of the ash. I know I counted 14, at least 14 ash trees on JFK. So we're gonna lose those eventually.
It's also the deer in the parks. They're using the trees as their personal scratching posts.
Yeah. Well, that's what we have to get deer protectors on them. I know I saw we purchased them, didn't we? Last year.
Yeah, we had them on. And I guess when they planted them, we didn't either have them in right away or whatever the case was. But I know a couple of them didn't have them on. So
Yeah, the deer destroy them if you don't put those on.
And this is something specifically, one thing that I think we've been asking for a council liaison to know that we're planting trees, and if we don't protect them properly, and if we don't water them properly, we don't maintain them properly, then that's money down the drain. Those trees are going to be destroyed by the deer, by lawn mowers and things like that. And that's something that we are trying to avoid.
When trees get a certain caliper, the deer don't destroy them. I don't think there should be any excuse for newly planted trees or under a certain size caliper that are damaged. We have the funds, we have the protections to put on there. If the protection is not being put on there, that's our problem. We call
Yeah, but Bob,
We're
Right,
trying to
it's a
correct
problem,
that.
but there is an issue with lack of resources within the DPW, that there are not enough personnel. I mean, Connor started off saying that they're understaffed for this year and that they've got people out with injuries. And the low thing on the totem pole is the maintenance of the trees that have been planted.
We're
Because
just throwing
the
money
lawns have to
away.
be cut, the parks have to be maintained, et cetera. So that is the thing that needs to be raised up, is that the DPW needs more resources to maintain the trees within the township.
Well, we have, I believe we are paying, and Councilman Vasanella can correct me if I'm wrong, we are paying 2 full-time employees out of DPW just to maintain the parks.
It
being
takes a
paid
lot
out-
more.
Being paid out of open space just to maintain our parks.
It takes a lot more than 2 people to maintain our parks. It does.
I'm not sure, Arnie, of the exact details, so I don't want to be quoted here, but
Right.
certain parts of the budget of the maintenance comes out of open space. But it doesn't mean that there may not be other resources or personnel out of the regular public works budget and parks maintenance. Over the years, as you well know, it's changed here and there with how much allocation comes from the open space budget to help with park maintenance. But overall, and I don't get involved, of course, councilperson on day-to-day, week-to-week personnel issues or assignments, but is it to where when the summer help is hired, because of course there's part-time summer help, that then it becomes something PW has no issue with, and maybe there's just this lapse in the spring between the before the seasonal workers get hired. I don't know. I'm just wondering, there may be a way that this could be, so there could be year round, the needs.
Well, it's the
year-round
spring
to
and
be-
it's the spring and the summer when they need to be watered, especially the summer. And it's in the fall when the deer are going to be rubbing up against them where they need those guards on them.
Right. Now, all I'm saying is that I don't know. It's something that maybe Carl, how could give you a more thorough insight to an explanation of, but maybe, I don't know, Connor, this is obviously your territory. Is there, is the summer help make it a lot easier for it once the summer part-time help clicks in?
I mean, it depends. Last year we weren't able to hire anyone because of COVID.
Well, yes, last year, I'm sorry, last year really can't be.
That's an
used as
exception.
example.
Yeah.
So assuming
Yeah.
things are relatively similar to staffing and whatnot to 2019, I mean, that's something you and Carl would maybe be able to give them more detail.
Yeah, from just like from my experience, when we hire we have 2 groups now of summer helpers. So we have a group A, which is more or less college kids, and they help us on the park side, and they also do all the open space work. And then I don't know which councilman it was a couple years back. He came up with the idea to let's hire some high school kids. And the high school kids, they take a lot. Just carting them all around, and then just their lack of experience. They need to be watched. So I mean, it can, and it doesn't help. Like I said, the college students are great. The open space helpers are great. It's more or less the high school kids. But during the summer we send the college kids, the open space workers, out to work in open space.
To be clear, we're really not looking for explanations or anything like that. We're just trying to get, if we have trees that are planted, we want them to live, we want them to be watered, and we want them to be protected. So we're
Yeah.
not wasting time of the people that planted them and money to pay for them and to be planted. So we don't need reasons. We just are looking to get the trees properly taken care of.
You want more resources this year. Well, as you probably know, I work directly through the manager, but
Mhm.
I would offer a suggestion, maybe it's already been done, that the chair has just a straightforward conversation with Carl. I mean, and again, Connor, you're shaking your head, Arnie. I guess you guys already.
I think Sarah did that. I think that's been done. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, you went through Carl, you went to, I don't know if you sent an email to the manager or something.
That was something else, Arnie.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking. That's not about the actual care and maintenance of the trees.
Okay.
Let's face it, Carl can be difficult to work with.
All right, turn Connor's microphone off for a minute.
And the public, remember, this is a public meeting and it's recorded for public to hear.
That's okay.
I think,
I don't, let me just offer this. Of course, I can bring any concern, question, suggestion to the manager. I work with Carl Hauk in as much as I'm on the Public Works Committee and very involved with most things Public Works as far as a council person can be involved with.
Right.
So, at a Public Works meeting, we have a fairly open forum. The manager and Carl, the director, are there. And, we deal with an agenda, but we also deal with new issues or can bring something up. I just don't want to drag anything out or step on anybody's toes to where if somebody, and it doesn't have to be the chair, I always just defer to the chair as a protocol, wanted to try to have a, one-on-one conversation. I just always suggest that, make sure you're at a standstill or at a situation where you'd like me to intervene, but that's up to you. Whatever I'm here as a liaison, so
we're working through Connor right now, and things seems to be okay.
That's fine, and I don't need to.
We'll see what if you're going to be here, and you'll see if we have difficulty moving on. That's
right.
That's the thing. Okay.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. You guys just seem very concerned about the trees.
That's our job.
Dying. No. You guys have to tell me where and when to get involved. You guys run things great. I have never heard anything, honestly, but compliments and curiosity about the shade tree.
Curiosity.
Again, just to reiterate the point, there's a substantial investment in each tree, in the labor that's involved, the machinery that goes into planting, and then the follow-up, whether it's watering or whatever other care. So there's an investment initially, and that investment must be protected. We're not in the business of replacing trees because we neglected them. We have to commit the resources. Franklin has to commit the resources. Once a tree goes in the ground, the public expects to see that tree grow, and frankly, so do we. So there has to be a plan. Maybe we can formulate something and find out exactly how DPW does this and what their approach is to trees. We can also investigate the caliper size as to when they don't have to be protected anymore, give them some guidance on that. We can work hand in hand.
Okay, Bob, we understand that
all right, let's go.
We've lost a few trees in the past. We're trying to correct it so we don't lose trees. So we'll work on it. Okay, so now we're going to do public information. Sarah?
Can we back up a minute, because what about the JFK trees? That's an ongoing issue, the separation.
They're not going to do it now. We talked about that last meeting. You were here, and we said that we were going to do it in the fall. We were going to dig the trees up and move them.
Okay.
Chris, hold on, let me stop you right there. So no, last meeting we talked about them and stated that it is gonna get done in the spring. You know, and after that meeting, I did bring that to Carl's attention. He has no problem doing it in the spring. You know, and of course, we just had first day of spring. So I'll work on getting that done. So hopefully sometime.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just for the councilman's understanding, can somebody explain to him what exactly that is we're talking about if he doesn't already know?
I'll explain it. On JFK Boulevard, we've observed that the trees, some trees, the trees were.
Two groups of three.
Yeah, well, let me finish. We try to do a 40-foot space between trees. So when they grow into a nice canopy. There were trees planted, 3 trees planted in that 40-foot space where there should have been 1 tree planted. So we're trying to get those moved to another space that is now missing a tree. That's what you're going to put it on JFK at a location that has lost a tree.
Yes, that is our plan.
Okay. Thank you.
And reminder, before leaf out, they have to get moved. They're pretty swollen right now. The opportunity is at hand.
So when you say spring that it's going to be done, they could be leafed out by then and it might be too late.
If they leaf out, wait until the fall, please, Connor.
I am gonna try and get this within the next 2 weeks. I wanna have this done.
That'd be
Okay.
great, Connor.
Me personally, my personal goal is to get this done within the next 2 weeks.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Connor.
That's great.
That's excellent.
Like I said, you know, I'm just, you know, kind of a labor, and it's gonna end up being up to the foreman.
We understand.
You know, but my personal goal is to try and get this done within the next 2 weeks.
A good rule of thumb is April 1 or possibly into the first week, because we've had traditionally our tree sale then. And we've always told people, as soon as you get them in the ground, they have to get in before leaf out. And sometimes we've been very, very close. So obviously the weather varies. If it's a lot warmer than usual, we're playing very close. But thank you. Thank you. Good to hear that.
Okay, now we can go to public forum. Sarah, have they finished transferring all the information over to our the new website? Or are they still working on that?
All I have done is tried to do updates to the website to get the new members listed. That still needs to be finished, and to get caught up on the agendas and minutes and things like that.
Okay.
I was on the website today. They have not, as Arnie indicated at the last meeting, they have not made any formal significant changes to the layout that I could see. And that's sort of what we're waiting for before we make more significant changes. And in terms of the stuff that we want to recommend in terms of the changes for new information pieces and the reorganization of the data so it's easier for the public to find information, Mary and I have not met to do that. She had indicated at our January meeting that she was going to have a very busy spring and that she couldn't really work on it until she got through her crunch, which is, I'm guessing, why she hasn't been at the last meeting, but I'm going to actually get in touch with her after this meeting to find out. So I think, and what we were going to do before we actually proposed formal changes is to bring a mock-up to you guys for you to have some feedback on and see if there's any additional information you wanted to put or if you wanted to see something rearranged. So my plan was as soon as I got the annual reports filed, then I could focus my time and energy on doing that. I couldn't do both at the same time. I just didn't have the capacity since I'm working full time. So
If I could
I
just
would say that's probably coming up in the next couple meetings.
If I could just elaborate on that, I'm not sure if I said this at the last meeting or not, but the Environmental Commission is completely overhauling their web page. And we've actually been working with Bob McQueen, and I can't think of the woman's name that
Krista.
is it Krista?
Krista.
Possibly. And we actually have a subcommittee meeting with them tomorrow. And what they told us was that they are overhauling the whole township website, which is going to be about 12 to 18 months.
Right.
So when you do have your stuff together as what you wanted, of what you would like to do, maybe it would be incumbent on you to find out how you can, if you can contact Bob McQueen and see if you can have some kind of meeting with him to discuss it with him.
Yes, that's what we talked about at the last meeting, and I've already spoken with Bob about that. Last
great.
year, we talked to him about that. So it was just a timing issue last year and resources last year, and so now it's just getting the annual report off my plate so I can focus on the website review.
Sarah,
So, thank
if you
thank
need help,
Arnie.
Sarah, I'll volunteer some of my help to get that, you get the information
Beautiful.
together.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes. Okay. So website, the ash borer is continuing to be a problem. Spotted lanternfly is going to explode this year. They're going to be all over the place. And there's no pending in that, the Franklin Times, there's no pending announcements on publications. Am I correct?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
On the Lanternfly, because of the cold weather we had for a while, is Sarah, anybody else know of any publications or anything? Someone said that perhaps the population will be knocked back.
I doubt it.
Oh, boy.
I haven't read anything.
Okay.
You know, I saw explode in Hunterdon County this year. They were everywhere. There's hundreds of thousands of them in Hunterdon County. And I've seen them in the northern sections of Somerset County in good numbers. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Until they eat all the trees they can and they die off, it's going to get worse. The only good thing is their main food source is a non-native tree that's a pest. So maybe they'll set that back. Okay.
I will add that we had that one article on the spotted lanternfly that Mary wrote last fall, because we wrote the one where, because you were seeing the really beautiful bug at that time of year. And so maybe it would be a good time with spring approaching, when the instar versions of that little thing hatch out, to maybe do an update on that, to push out through the website, through the township's email blast that has updated pictures and more information of what people should do if they see the babies,
Yes,
and
see
how
the
they can deal with them.
nymphs. They're nymphs. I believe they're called nymphs.
The nymphs, thank you, the nymphs, yeah. So I can volunteer to pick up on that, and then, whether or not there is a Franklin Times, we can at least push it out through the township's email blast.
Okay.
Does anybody want
Arnie?
to work with me on that?
I will work with you on that.
Chris, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Arnie, I guess we're still deferring because of COVID, the Boy Scout tree tagging project, right, Arnie? That was your idea. Arnie.
Arnie,
Unmute,
your
Arnie. You
microphone's
have to
up on your
unmute.
forehead.
I was writing on my forehead.
Your microphone's
so I
up
wouldn't
there.
have
Your
to talk.
microphone's up there.
Just to, Councilman Bastanella is very much involved with the Boy Scouts, so I don't know if he's aware of what we were talking about.
No,
Arnie, why don't you pull your microphone down a bit? There you go.
I do not know the details of what you're talking about. I did see it. Not
Yeah,
sure.
we had talked about, and this was going to be in conjunction with the Open Space Advisory Committee, where there would be some kind of project that hopefully the Boy Scouts would do, where they would I guess we would probably provide tags, and the Boy Scouts would go out and put these tags on the trees of the different trails in our open space areas. So when people are walking around the trails, they would be able to identify what kind of trees they are. There are different kinds of tags that can be used. Some of them where you can just use your phone and go up there, and there's like, like a barcode sort of thing where it would tell you what kind of tree it is, or it might be something that's specifically written on it that it's an oak tree. But that's something that we had been working on. This came up, I think I brought this up over a year ago, but things fell through and COVID came, and so it's just something on the back burner for now. So I might have mentioned this to you a long time ago, but it's been so long that it's still in the very early stages. We're still waiting for a time when people can actually get out and do stuff like that.
I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm here as a council person, but you're right, I am involved in scouting, and a lot of times when we do take small hikes, which hasn't been too often, but most of the activity, too often with COVID, but most of the activity we have had have just been some daytime hikes and some in Franklin. And part of what we do is try to identify trees, animal tracks, all the usual. But I think the scouts would not only enjoy it, but benefit by it. And it may fulfill some requirements they have for certain merit badges. And if nothing else, they do a lot of required service hours each year. So it would fall under some category for them to definitely take advantage of. And I think it's a great idea. So I can't speak for other troops, but I think most of them are doing basic hiking, with social distance and mask and all that. So you probably could get that going this year if you wanted.
Later this year, maybe in the fall.
Well, I was going to say whatever works. So I don't know when you planned on doing it. I can offline give Arnie the contacts for the troops I'm aware of, including the one I'm involved with. But as a council person, I think it's a great idea to engage any groups anywhere in town, especially Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts groups that are focused on outdoor activity and community service. I think it's great.
I think it's something that I'm gonna have to bring up at open space, because I think the last that I heard about it was that the township has the ability to make these tags. I think either that or purchase them. I'm not sure which it was, but I think they have the ability to make them. And then it would be a matter of the scouts going out and possibly people from Shade Tree going with them to make sure they put the tags on the proper trees, so that everything is tagged properly.
All right, I would like to see the tags before we, I like to see a mock-up of the tag before we okay it to be sent out.
Well, why don't we make it our business, since you and I are both on open space, to talk about it at the next open space meeting?
Whenever that is.
Right.
Because what I think should happen is there should be the regular name, just a common name on top, and maybe the Latin name underneath. That would look pretty neat, I think. Okay.
I got a observation on that. Sarah, did we, was it this year, last year, before that, and Chris, iTree, that program, is there a way to identify a tree by using your cell phone? There's a program you can load on that.
I'm sure I have a plant app that can identify plants. So I'm sure there's a tree app out there.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I
have
and see if we can
plants
find
map
it.
on mine.
Okay. And as far as the coding goes, I believe a QR code can be used. I was on a day-long conference with New Jersey Native Plant Society, and there was a consultant or someone from the Ramapo Environmental Center, and I believe they did this very thing. We're looking for the Boy Scouts to help out. So I believe there's software available. There's some other things. And when you're ready to perhaps look at what they've done or maybe other places, I can put you in touch with that person.
I would rather not use a code like that because I just think the kids, if they're going out in the woods, should leave their phones at home. My personal opinion, but.
Well, this would have all the information right there. How much information can you put on a tag? Certainly you can put the common name and the Latin name, but then maybe a little more detail with it if they want to follow up. Well, I'll leave it up to you. I'm just trying to make a resource available if you want to pursue that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had mentioned barcode, but I think what I really meant was what Bob called it,
QR
barcode,
code.
it's more technical. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, Chris, you got to stop fighting the technology. It's really there. So just buck up and do it, you know?
Chris, I'm right there
Not
with you.
much.
with
You
the
should
fight.
leave your cell phone at home. The kids. Just
Chris, I'm
How
right,
can you
I'm right
identify
there with you with the
frozen
fight,
flowers
Chris,
if you
but
can't have
it's
your
not just the
app?
kids that are out there. There are people that are our age that don't know what kind of trees they are. And we're
Yeah.
gonna have
Yeah.
our phones with them. So
Okay.
Yeah, and then they'll learn. That's okay. That's okay.
Yes, it's instantly available.
good for the old fogies.
So just curious if I understand, you guys are going to do both. You'll have a, something that actually says the name, but then if they want more information, they'll be able to use that system.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're
they just
hoping.
proposed.
It's
That's what we're
funny,
hoping for.
it's funny you're bringing up the cell phones because we often ask the scouts to leave them, you know, in their pack or in their parents' glove compartment or whatever. And,
I love it.
and get, you know, get back to nature 100%. But there's actually more and more now, with Boy Scouts and with organizations, open space, I'm not talking specifically Franklin, but open space entities that are utilizing technology. So we're in a little bit of a, you know,
Conundrum.
not to cater to us. I'm just saying that I think we're finding a balance where we actually look to have one scout have a phone in case there's something that's educational. And so the bottom line though is I think it's good to at least have the name or the, you know, the Latin name. But then if you want to utilize technology, you can give them a whole essay on the tree, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How can you
This
not
is-
have a
yeah.
phone with you in case you see Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster? You have to be able to document that.
The only thing.
Well,
Especially
I-
Loch Ness in the woods.
Actually,
the only
honestly,
thing you may see out there is a black bear.
but no, there's a leader always with a phone, but I don't know. I guess everybody's got their own opinion on.
Look
what
at it this way,
technology
we're saving trees from cutting them down and making paper that would be handing out to all the scouts who would be walking around and looking at their paper and maybe tripping over something. So I think the phone's the way to go.
Not gonna
We'll
get,
work it
I'm not
out.
gonna say anything more. I don't want to get trapped on one side or the other.
Okay,
Okay.
let's move on.
Yeah, we've already discussed Arbor Day proclamation, so we'll skip that.
Oh, speaking of that, I sent the proclamation to everybody. I emailed it to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Arnie.
Yep.
Okay, then we have
Thanks, Arnie.
landscape guides, development application. Alan, were you working on that? Alan, you're gonna
Yes,
have to.
I am muted. Yeah. Bob and I were working on that, and
COVID stuff.
I think we can, Ellen, what do you think? We can address that more from our meeting that
sure.
we had this afternoon. When we get to new business, we can talk about the, what Arnie had set up.
That makes sense.
Okay, let's table that.
Okay, why don't we just discuss it now, because there's not much else to talk about. There's Arnie's tree. Okay, fine. Arnie, we have the green roof incentive. You have you're putting a group together. Did you meet today or are you meeting tomorrow?
Well, yeah, we met today. And it was Robin Saddam from Environmental, myself, Bob, and Ellen. And Ellen took some notes. So I would say, you know, if she wants to start it off, and Bob, if you want to talk about what you want to talk about. And we had a good meeting. It was about an hour and a half meeting, talking about, well, Ellen and Bob, why don't you start it off?
Ellen, you have notes. You want to do some highlights there?
Well, yeah, just the highlights. I'll jump.
No pressure.
I'll jump ahead to the end. I mean, we threw out a lot of topics, but I think the gist of what initiated all this was, I think a lot of the development or the approval of large buildings that are going to be having large roofs and which would essentially be heat sinks. That was one of the Environmental Commission's concerns, like the warehouses on Elizabeth Avenue and I guess Cottontail Lane, and I can't remember the other street, but
Elizabeth Avenue.
and Elizabeth Avenue, Cottontail Lane, and there's another one.
Randolph.
Veronica,
Randolph, as well as one particular house of worship on South Middlebush Road, and the trees that are going to be lost. So it was a matter of the green roof, finding a way to perhaps utilize the tree fund towards a green roof initiative, and the concern about losing trees, large stands of trees that really, there is no real equivalency between losing a large group of trees and putting money into the tree fund or planting a few trees in lieu of the ones that were taken down. And could that be revisited and reevaluated? If I stop me if I've got that wrong. And I think it was Robin who suggests that we need to really go back and look at the master plan and see where anything that we might undertake would fit in the master plan. So I think she was going to speak with Ted Case about that, since he would have the best knowledge of it. And so there was talk about also looking into getting a sustainability coordinator who might be best at speaking to or focusing on all of these issues, as well as potentially a grants writer, and perhaps updating the shade tree ordinance. And those are the three high points that I had. Arnie and Bob, you want to correct anything that I've said or that I missed?
Yeah, we I'm trying to remember here. The shade tree ordinance, I think we were all asking, how did this come about? How old is it? Where was the language pulled from? And
You remember that the whole reason the shade tree exists is a state law, state regulation to provide liability insurance for municipalities.
right.
That's really the guts of why we're here, and the
And I had to
ordinance
reiterate
language
a number of
probably came from the
times
state. Yeah.
that we are charged with trees in the township's rights of way, township
Right.
property, parks, any other lands that they own.
Right.
And that is our scope to the depth as to what we go. We can't influence a business or their property.
Well-
We don't get involved in that. We are limited in scope.
There is a base requirement in the state for shade tree commissions. Could we expand on that? I don't know. You'd have to explore
Right.
that, but. you'd
So
have
I
to
think
maybe
the
ask
other
them
thing
to
we
say about
brought
that.
up too was saying that, what are some of the best practices around the area? What is the, in New Jersey, what are some of the languages that's used out there? Is what we have the best that can be out there, or most practical? We talked about, at least I brought it up, saying that the Shade Tree Commission is a group of volunteers. We're not consultants. We do as much as we can. And one of the things that I pointed out was that we were consulted with the Hamilton Street revitalization as far as the trees go. There was a consultant that was hired. We were asked for our input. We came up with a number of species. It went to the consultant who looked at them and gave their best. And according to your knowledge, yay or nay on these trees. I believe that's what we can do, be an advisory committee to the township. The landscape guidelines for development and applications, there's a pretty good discussion on that. That's a lot of involvement for us. Me personally, the last 2 years have been tough. I just had something else happen with the family this year, so that's eats up my time as well too. So I can't devote what I want to. But having said that, Rutgers is down the street from us, and Robin had brought up saying, let's look at perhaps some of the talent that's there. Are there students that perhaps we can hire for some of these things that we want to do? We could have the ultimate say. However, these are the folks like consultants that can go ahead and look at trees, look at what may be best practices or the type of trees that go into an urban suburban environment. Maybe they'll look at other successful shade tree commissions out there, but I'm sure they have their own database as to what trees work where. That would entail, if we were to do that, that would entail a lot of research. And I don't think that we're not consultants.
So if we choose to hire a consultant to which I'm not against, to rewrite the landscape guidelines for development, we'd have to present a proposal to the township board, the mayor and council.
Well, Chris, that's what brought this all together. Being on Shade Tree and on the Environmental Commission, I saw
Right.
Shade Tree looking to hopefully make amendments to the landscape guidelines in the Shade Tree ordinance. And I saw the Environmental Commission looking to make amendments to the Shade Tree ordinance, whether it had to do with how the funds are spent, whether, where we have, a lot of money in the Shade Tree Fund, and it's there to be used to plant trees, but are there other ways it can be used, possibly with the help of where developers build these big warehouses, and we would like to see green roofs put on these warehouses in places where it's possible. So instead of these developers providing money to the Shade Tree Fund where they've cut down trees and can't replace them, maybe some of that money can go towards green roofs on some of these. So environmental, and that's just one thing environmental was looking for. This is for stormwater management, carbon dioxide sequestration. It's good for habitats for little creatures and things. But what we're looking to do, we also are looking to make amendments to the ordinance. So that's why I thought, why don't we have a subcommittee combined of the two, of Shade Tree and environmental, and maybe we can find some commonality and put something together to present to the council or to whoever it is that we need to present it to see what we can get done to make changes in the ordinance. So where it would be beneficial to what our intent is.
I'm not keen on cutting our funds that much for the trees they take out. I understand you want to cut it back a little bit, but I'm not keen on doing too much, giving back too much to the developer.
Well, we haven't really discussed how much, but Chris, you know how much money is in that fund that's not being spent, right?
Well, give us time.
Yeah, well, it's been in there for a long time. So
well, COVID cut everything
Yeah.
down.
it was in there before, it was in there before COVID. So the point being, we're not looking to take, huge amounts of money out, but it's something, it's like a stepping stone. It's a starting point to probably help people get started. So instead of some developer putting $10,000 into a tree fund, put $5,000 towards a green roof or something like that. I'm just throwing those two numbers out there. I really have no idea.
Those green leaves are more like a $500,000.
I'm throwing a number
Okay,
out
could
there
I-
we
Yeah.
can be providing them with 10% of what it is, 10% of what they need to put into the tree fund, they can put towards the green roof.
Okay.
We're looking,
I
we're
have,
just sort
yeah.
of throwing stuff up against the wall right now.
Okay,
If I
Sarah, go
may,
ahead.
if I may, I've been involved in all these conversations, and I don't have any idea what we're talking about right now because it has
Can you turn your
migrated. It's
volume
like
up a little
to
bit, Sarah?
telephone game. Yeah. This has really migrated a lot and changed from where I thought we were going originally. And I don't know. I mean, there's lots of reasons why that could happen, but I think one of the ways that we can prevent it from continuing is if everybody wrote down what they were talking about and shared it with each other in print. What I recall that the original reason we got involved in the landscape guidelines for development applications is because we recognized that the trees that they were recommending to developers were ash trees and Norway maples and things we absolutely do not want to have planted in our township. So we originally got involved in the revisions of the landscape guidelines for development applications to recommend to the Environmental Commission, who wrote that document, that they should have different trees. And while we were at it, we recognized that some of their maintenance procedures were out of date as well. They didn't represent best practices for tree care and maintenance. So we were going to recommend changes to their document. We were not going to pay for changes. We were not going to hire a consultant to do it. We weren't going to be doing in-depth research for it, other than perhaps to look around to neighboring townships who had better practices than we have and perhaps copy some of what they were doing. That is all we were going to do with the landscape guidelines. The issue about the green roofs came about. Arnie, you brought that to us probably 4 or 5 months ago as an idea of, instead of developers paying into the shade tree fund for the trees that they had to remove, that we then would plant elsewhere, that they could then use what they would have paid into that as an offset toward put a green roof on their building. So that's not taking money out of the shade tree fund. It's not having us pay for their green roof. It's just that money is being redirected before it ever came to us. But
Sarah, you're spot on with that.
Yeah. So those are two things that I'm hearing. And if they have evolved, or if you guys have other ideas of what's happening beyond that, we need clarification.
What you just said is 100% correct. I agree with everything you said, that Shade Tree was looking at the landscape guidelines as far as the types of trees being used and wanting to change the list of trees to be recommended to developers. Environmental was looking at the green roofs issue and stuff having to do with stormwater management and things like that. But it all has to do with it all comes together under the Shade Tree situation. So that's why I said, why don't we get together as a subcommittee with the Shade Tree and Environmental and just brainstorm and see what common ground we can come up with to make changes. Now, one of the things that came out of this, you just said that this is the Environmental Commission's ordinance. Well, I emailed with Mark Healy about this.
It's not your ordinance, your document. Yeah.
Document. I emailed with Mark Healy, and he said the ordinance is shade trees. And I had thought that it was.
The document says Environmental Commission on the cover.
I understand that.
It says Environmental Commission on the cover.
So I'm just telling you what Mark said, okay? So I don't know how the document is or what the story is. The bottom line is whatever recommendations we come up with, if we do this way, it can be recommendations from the Environmental Commission and Shade Tree. These are recommendations we would like to see for amendments to the landscaping guidelines, to the shade tree guidelines, to the trust fund guidelines. That was the whole idea of me wanting to put everybody together just so we could brainstorm together.
Well, I would love to see, when you guys have your meeting the next time, I'd love to see a written outline of what you're proposing and what the change to what documents and what the effects would be, so that we could look at it and talk about it and not try to interpret
Well,
what each other is
this was
doing.
purely
I think it's-
brainstorming, so there was no structure going in. Come whatever may, up to, you know, just floats out. But going forward, yeah, we can focus, right, Ellen and Arnie, maybe perhaps on a couple of the highlighted topics that we came up with.
And the way it's situated now, we have Bob and Ellen from Shade Tree. Robin and one other person was supposed to be on it, but has problems with scheduling due to work. And I was going to be the liaison, basically just putting it together. Wasn't my intent to be a major contributor to this, but I'll contribute whatever I can. But if anybody else wants to join, Steve, you're new. If you're interested, you're welcome to join the subcommittee. And anybody else that wants to join. The more brains, the better. Of course, we can't have more than a quorum from any one
Right.
committee. So what is a quorum on Shade Tree? Is it
Four. Yeah,
Four?
it's four.
So we could have one more person from Shade Tree if anybody wants to join. We haven't scheduled our next meeting yet. We're just waiting to put that together.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to help, Barney. I mean, I think it's a very hot topic in our town. As you hear when people talk about what's going on in our town, they're very interested in what's going on with the tree canopy, what's happening with developers clearing, interested in, advanced new ideas like green roofs. But really, it all comes down to practicality of what happened to those trees over there, and what are we as a town saying to developers and homeowners and property owners that they should be doing? Like, let's give them some help. But as we said, if we're telling them to plant the wrong kind of trees, then it's shame on us. But if we can give them good, clear direction, and we as a town take this seriously enough to say, hey, if you're going to cut down 500 trees, you got to do more than just put money in a bank account. You have to help us replace them, and do something long-term meaningful for our town. So yeah, I'd be happy to jump in, see what we can do.
We will add you to the email list.
Thanks.
And no matter how much anybody else wants to join this committee, you're out. You can't do it because we've already got 3 from Shade Tree.
I can't join, Arnie?
Look how sad you
You
Oh,
can.
join.
You can.
Listen, excuse me, I just wanted to add in, I don't want to add more confusion to the situation. Hopefully it will give some clarity. I was at a land use meeting, virtually yesterday, and we don't have the formal minutes and readout that we do at a council meeting, so I don't want to go into it too much, but one thing that I can tell you did come up, and that we are looking into further, and I say that, seriously looking into further. I don't know what we're going to come up with, but it's about trying to see if there's incentives, because there's a lot of legalities involved, incentives to for green roofs. I don't want to get into the whole conversation, but I know there's some environmental commission and others like the idea of trying to make it mandatory. I don't know if that's really practical or feasible, but maybe some practical and legal incentives that we can give for the green roof, encouraging places for green roofs, because we realize there's a big interest in it. But whatever committee you have, you probably want to, Ted Chase and Mark Healy, staff-wise, and Ted would probably be, make sure everybody gets on the same page, because I don't want you to be doing, I don't want multiple people to be doing the same work. And it sounds like this is a really good opportunity to, nothing else, get a focus on it and maybe get some real incentives that can lead to, I don't want to get into a debate about the trust fund, because I know there's different views on, do they still have to put money in, or can there be incentive where they don't? But that's the kind of thing that you can, your committee with Ted and Mark's input could probably come up with something that I'm sure council would seriously consider, or, take a look at.
I think Jim, incentive is an excellent word, to be able to incentivize to some of these developers, instead of putting a whole bunch of money into a trust fund that does nothing for them, but they can take that money and put it into a green roof, as an example, as a down payment on a green roof or something, then that money is being spent on the building that they are actually building. And those green roofs are not just there to look pretty. They help keep the building warm in the winter. They keep the building cool in the summer. It's good for climate change. There are so many benefits to these green roofs. So it's the whole idea is to incentivize developers to go towards these green roofs. I mean, there are cities throughout the United States that require it. I don't know if that's going to happen in Franklin Township. I don't think, but it's something that we can try and push people towards doing, incentivizing them to doing it.
Remember, Arnie and Ellen, remember Robin's comments about the DEP slowly getting on board on some of these things, and then the possibility of Franklin going a little further on these, because once, only my opinion, but once these things are adopted by DEP and they see that these work, perhaps down the road they'll be pushing up the requirements more. More roofs or roofs or whatever they're going to do. So I just wonder if Franklin would dare to be ahead of the curve.
Well, I honestly think there's a lot of interest in pursuing this. Again, I'm only one of 9 people, and it's still the conversations. I don't want to say they're in their infancy, but they're developing now. I don't see it, and my mind could change. I don't see it to be a mandatory part of any kind of stormwater or other ordinance right now. And that's how it came about, because we're revamping the stormwater ordinance and getting ready to send it to the relevant bodies for approval. But I think there's a lot of interest. I know when I talked about it one time at a council meeting relevant to land use conversation months back, I brought up the Rutgers, Rutgers Gardens has a green roof. I'm sure most of you know. So I gave that as an example, but the uses are limitless. I mean, for that, a lot of homeowners it's not practical for. But anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on was you guys mentioned about picking trees. I'm also very involved in Hamilton Street, and God knows we've been through years and years of studies and talks, removing bad trees, ones I heard should never have been planted there to begin with. But are you in communication at all with Vince Dominic, the executive director, or anybody relevant to Hamilton Street? Because we are pushing to get this tree, we paid for that plan and everything else, rolling out the actual tree planting this year. And that was a main priority of the board that is mainly business owners and residents.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, Jim, we had the Hamilton Street was on our agenda a couple of years back, actually, by now. And the consultant, who is the consultant? It just escaped my mind. I can see
It's
them.
CME, I believe, or CME.
Yeah. CME,
Yeah, I think it was CME, the latest one that we spent good money on that report.
Right. They came to our Shade Tree Commission asking for advice on which trees to plant.
That's what I thought.
They had, and where to plant, how to plant them, which species to plant. And we approved their species list and their planting plan a long time ago. And to the
Yeah,
best of
that's
my
what I
knowledge, they're
mentioned a little
moving
earlier,
forward
Jim.
with the trees that we had recommended.
Right, but now that was the one from a couple years ago when they first did the study.
Yes.
Well,
It's
they are
the one
planting.
that they've taken down the trees, and my understanding is that they're planting the things that we recommended. Has something changed since then that we haven't heard about?
We saw the final plan, Jim.
No, I don't think anything's changed. They weren't done. I don't believe it was done last year, very possibly because of the rippling effect of COVID. But
Right.
at a recent Hamilton meeting, it was brought up, and that was exactly it. There were people, shop owners and board members that wanted to know, why our tree program wasn't finished. So we reviewed the whole process, and something came up about shade tree, and I remember you guys being involved. But has anybody approached you in the last 2 years? Since you
Not since we
I think this
approved
is
that
something
plan, no.
DPW can answer. Connor, do you have any comments on
Well,
that?
Jim asked if they approached us.
Or
I'm
if you
sorry.
guys, I'm just trying to make sure everybody's communicating about the tree selection advice or anything else that you can assist with or have input on. Because that's something that Hamilton was going to make the priority to attack this year. I'm going to say Hamilton Advisory Board with their resources. Sometimes we utilize in-house and sometimes out of house.
CME came to us and with a plan, we reviewed it. They made changes that we requested, and the final plan we saw, I thought we saw the final plan. I don't think they made any changes to the tree selection on that plan. The only way we can know
And
is
then,
if
yeah.
you bring that plan to us and show it to us.
Yeah, and in terms of the timing of things, they needed to remove, if they ended up removing a lot more trees than they had originally wanted to, and came back and talked to us about that, and why they needed to do that, which we agreed with it. And then they needed to wait until sidewalks and some infrastructure were put in before they planted the trees. It didn't make sense to plant the trees before they finished the sidewalks. That worked into, I think, most of 2019, they were still working on sidewalks and infrastructure. And then they didn't want to plant in the spring, which we agreed with, because maintaining those trees in a sidewalk streetscape it'd kill them. Either we want to wait and do it in the fall in terms of the timing of planting them. And then I think we came into COVID. So I think, yeah, that's been a long time that street's been without trees, and I'm sure the shop owners are really upset. But
everything you described, you summarized it well as far as my memory of the situation. I guess I just want to make sure that if going forward, they needed any input or involvement. I'm not sure exactly where the funds are coming from to pay for them, but I know that the goal is to get some of that done. And the sidewalk work, sidewalk infrastructure is still happening and probably going to go on for a while. There's so many bits and pieces of it because of the big new construction sites and other areas that don't make sense to, there's a lot of planning, and I know for DPW representative knows that there's a lot of aspects that go into the planning, but one way or the other, I'm hoping that some trees will get done. It's been a long time in the waiting. I know.
Well, there are some that have been planted already.
Okay, but
Most definitely.
So maybe they're moving forward with planting in the areas that we can, but you guys are available as an
advisory board, yes.
Yeah, so if they want to have any questions or input from that, I will let them know at the next meeting. I think we're going to get an update on the tree situation at the next Hamilton meeting.
I just hope they wait until fall to plant the trees. I know that the owners want them in as soon as possible, but if you do it in the summertime, there's going to be stress on those trees, and they may not make it.
You're muted, Jim. Jim, you're
They,
muted.
I'm sorry. They very well may be operating under that premise you just said, so I don't want to suggest or not. As much as I know trees and love trees, I don't get into that detail. I'm not skilled enough to chime in on that, but at the next meeting, I will mention it if it comes up. But when I say this year, they may very well mean doing it in the late summer, fall, early fall.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Chris, your last meeting, you were going to look into, it came up, my suggestion, that you were going to look into the contract and see what the guarantee on those trees are. Did you have a chance to get to that?
No, I did not. I forgot all about it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, Jim, one of the things we asked for is back to the consultants was that these trees be covered for 2 years, a maintenance program or something, and hopefully that was incorporated in the final draft. There's no sense in putting a tree and then in a year it could have been deficient when it was put in, and then it, you know, and in 2 years it's gone. So I believe we asked for a 2-year.
So Jim, I would contact the engineering department for the contract, or is it the, who would I contact to get a copy of the contract? With the developer or the
Oh, the report?
contractor?
You mean the report from CME?
No. When whoever's planting the trees is gonna get paid for it. Who's paying them? And if we're doing it, we should have a written contract with them.
A contract
I'm
about a warranty or a guarantee on the trees? Is that what you're talking about? Like a
No,
1 year, 2 year?
just for planting the trees, there's usually a contract agreement for planting the trees.
You mean by the
Yes.
contract, the construction landscape contractor? or what?
Yes, exactly.
That's part of what would be in the bid specs that would be sent out.
Right.
Right.
Of course, I don't create the bid specs, but the bids go out based on what either council, usually higher staff member, administration tells them, or sometimes that, if it comes out of a group. I'm not real familiar if you guys get involved with stuff like that, but I will find out. You're saying you want to know, you'd like to see the contract or make sure the contract includes some of these concerns with the
Exactly.
the maintenance. And I guess what I'm saying is, I'm being honest, I have not seen and do not know anything about the details of the contract.
Yeah.
You know who would know if it's got to that point? I don't know if it's got to that point. Vince Dominic is the executive director. It's his official position. Well, he's business advocate and economic development director of the town also. But one of his very specific assignments is economic executive director for Hamilton Street. So he really is
Okay.
in charge of that. He's compensated to do all that administrative work. So
Can you email me his email contact information?
I have it,
Sure.
Chris. I can send it to you.
Okay, yeah, forward that to me, Sarah. That way
I got it. Okay.
I'll email
Oh, you
Yeah,
have
we
it?
worked
Okay.
with Dominic early. Dominic is who brought this to us originally, so I've got his information.
him. Okay.
Yeah, in the last 3 or 4 years, he's been the executive director, and he knows obviously, everything going on, everything going in the town relevant to Hamilton and this stuff here. So. he'd be-
Yeah, I believe you came to our meeting initially.
Yep, he did.
COVID, look, I mean, truthfully, COVID, I mean, we did pretty well, I think, as a town, but there's a handful of things that just didn't get out of the gate last year, understandably, or didn't make the progress that needed to. So I'm sorry I don't have more detailed information, but these are one of those things that are high priority, but we're kind of catching up with this year.
Yeah. Well, it was a rough year last year.
Understatement.
Okay. So we're basically down to opening the meeting up to the public for a second time.
If I may, the proposed developments with tree impacts.
Yeah,
And the thing that we had under that last month was the development on South Middlebush. Arnie, you had presented that and talked to us about it. Do you have any updates? The one near the farm?
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with what you're talking about on Middle Bush Road, the religious facility of the temple that's being proposed and it's going through the zoning board. I know they had a zoning board meeting either last week or the week before, and the next one is, I believe, April 15th. My understanding that one of the things originally was that they wanted a 50-foot setback where to the way back part of their property, so it was very close to the farmland back there, and it's supposed to be a 200-foot setback. From what I heard, it has been changed from it being only 50 feet to 130 feet, so closer to the required 200 feet. But I also heard that it's not going to have much of an impact on how many trees they're going to be taking down. So there's still a lot of concern that they're taking down hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees. And the last we heard, I think it was about 380 trees they weren't going to be able to replace. So they were going to be putting that money into the trust fund. So it's, as far as trees are concerned and the canopy is concerned, going back to the proclamation by the council, this is going directly against that. We're just taking down massive trees, and you've got that whole, right next to that big stand of trees is, I think maybe it's 6 acres of open land that the applicants own that they could be using. Instead of taking down that many trees, they'd still have to take down some trees, but then if they use that, then there are people that are concerned about the scenic byway, and there's a scenic byway ordinance in Franklin Township. So that's a concern as to why maybe they're not using all of that open land. There's been discussion about, well, why can't they build plant trees along South Middle Bush Road to help defer, to help it so that the scenic byway isn't crushed as what they think it's going to do. I mean, I don't know how big South Middle Bush Road is. Is it 5 miles long or whatever it is? I'm not sure. But we're talking about 200 or 300 feet of roadway there that, from what I've heard, they don't want to build along there and to ruin the scenic byway. But again, there's that whole open space they could be building on there and planting trees out there so people wouldn't see what was built there, even putting the parking lot in that area there. So, you know, people, it wouldn't be the structure there. There's options, but it seems like right now the scenic byway issue is trumping the loss of all the trees, which again, habitat for many species of animals, the canopy, how those trees help us with climate change. It's just a shame that all those trees are going to be taken down, and it doesn't sound like the changes they've made in their application so far are going to make any difference as far as taking the trees down is concerned.
Thanks for the update.
Okay. Thank you, Arnie. So we're down to opening up the meeting to the public for a second time.
I propose we open it for a second time.
Second,
Okay. Is there any public with us, Sarah?
Franklin Reporter, would you like to ask any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for
Then-
being there.
We'll make a motion to close to the public.
close,
A motion.
second,
Okay. And adjourn the meeting, guys. So
Motion.
Second.
and
Second.
discussion.
Second.
Jim, welcome to your first meeting.
Yes, Jim.
Thank you for attending.
Listen, I'm excited to be part of this. I I was aware that a liaison was of importance. Marty had told me sooner. No, but I'm glad we were able to serve because truthfully, the council wants there to be communication with every organization. And obviously, we're connected with trails and open space and environmental. And although most of what you guys do is connected to one of those organizations, you do stuff that is unique to your mission and your efforts. So hopefully I could be of help. And
Well, you're already happy to help, Jim.
thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to have you on board. Thank
You've
you.
uplifted our spirits knowing that you are here to be a sounding board for us,
Yes.
if not
and
more.
I don't know how
And a
many years
connection.
I've been on the Shade Tree Commission, but did a councilman ever come to one of our meetings? I don't think so.
I actually came before I was a councilman. Literally, I was very curious about what you guys did, probably 20, I don't know, 18, 20 years ago, and I was amazed. But real quick, the agricultural and the shade tree, for some reason, were kind of not left out of the equation, but I know when I got, years back, I was pushing to get a representative for environmental and open space. Believe it or not, environmental and open space, and back in like '09, didn't even have one. So it was nothing, it wasn't a slight to shade tree or agriculture. I think a lot of people just felt that they kind of worked under the umbrella of those other groups, but definitely
Okay.
you guys do enough to warrant a liaison, and obviously got a great staff liaison also, which is helpful. So,
I just want to share a fast memory with Jim. Jim, it was I think a few days before Thanksgiving or a day before, and I ran into the Stop and Shop or whatever that was. Maybe it was Edwards back then, and I introduced myself. I think I had just joined Shade Tree, and you kind of turned to me because no one really knows what you guys do or something like that. It's like, oh, okay. So this has come full circle. Thank you for being part of
no, it
us.
really has. But a lot of people do know about Arbor Day and have seen the benefits of what you guys do. And I hope the things you talked about tonight, that you got a lot of projects, you got a lot of stuff on the agenda for this year. And whatever way I can help out with it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Good to see everyone. Be well.
You too.
Bye, take care.
Bye now.